The 90s was a transformative decade in pop culture, cementing a legacy of iconic music, film, and television. Society as a whole began seeing significant shifts in technology. As the World Wide Web revolutionized the way we collectively became entertained, so with it did our interest, slowly evolving as did many of our beloved franchises today. Shock TV was all the craze, and many franchises went through that 90s rebranding. DC went out on a limb, killing off Superman, looking to fill that role with the next rising hero. The Spider-Man we know and love, for a brief moment, became a clone the entire time, handing the red and blue tights over to the all-new Ben Reilly. Things today seem to very much come full circle, yet there was something about that Attitude Era that just felt risky, throwing anything and everything at the wall, hoping it'd stick. After the success of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Sega and the Blue brand was riding an all-time high. Our storied adventure across one of the greatest trilogies of the 90s solidified its place among a console generation that was slowly coming to a close, yet for a brief moment it felt as if Sonic the Hedgehog had found a successor, passing the torch over to the shiny new Knuckles the Echidna. Around this time, Knuckles was all the craze. He would begin to receive his own comic series and was featured as an ambassador for the brand. There was absolutely just cause to give Knuckles the spotlight moving forward, and as Sonic 3's storied events closed out, it would do so with Knuckles defending the mysterious Angel Island against Mechasonic. To be fair, we still had much to learn about our new Echidna, so naturally fans wanted to hear more. When the news broke that we were receiving a brand new Knuckles game, I was all for it. So how did my experience with that go? Well, here's the kicker. Sadly, it never took off. To my surprise, this new Knuckles game was coming out on this new add-on peripheral. I kept hearing about the 32X. By the end of the calendar year, it was slowly clearanced out at many of my local big box retailers. I would manage to score a 32X later that year, as Knuckles himself inevitably sold me on the device. Yes, the Sonic series was absolutely that popular by the late 90s that I would ask for a console strictly for a specific game. Don't tell me y'all wouldn't do the same thing at some point. When I finally received my 32X that year, I was puzzled by the setup. I attached the 32X to my Model 2 Genesis. I made sure the contacts were clean and everything fit snug. I proceeded to insert the additional power supply for the 32X. Good so far. I quickly busted out that fresh new Knuckles Chaotix cart, hit the power button, and boom. I could hear the intro theme playing, but nothing. I didn't realize until many years later my issue all along was the adapter cable that goes from the AV out of my Genesis to the AV in on the 32X. This is how the 32X gets video from the Genesis. Oddly enough, you can still plug a 32X cartridge in without the cable attached, and the 32X graphics will be displayed, but with some missing sprites. As a kid, I assumed my setup was defective, and after numerous attempts at troubleshooting, a 10-year-old kid would just admit defeat and return it. In hindsight, many 32X games utilize both the Sega Genesis graphics combined with the 32X graphics to capture the full picture. Knuckles Chaotix has quite the interesting conception story. Although structurally a Sonic Team title, much of its development was relegated to an in-house internal team, with a decent majority of that staff consisting of veteran members of the Sonic CD project. With the musical score composed this time by Junko Shiratsu, development would kick off in mid-94. Interesting enough, as a test engine, starting out as the infamous little demo that many of us assumed was some random bootleg. In all actuality, this was designed to demonstrate new concepts for a future release, Sonic and Crackers. So the whole Crackers mix-up comes about by some sort of mistranslation, most likely meant to read as Clackers, the name of a popular toy consisting of two solid balls and a sturdy string. The player holds the tabs with the balls hanging below, and through an up and down hand motion, makes the two balls swing apart and back together, creating the clacking noise. Yeah, we're gonna stop there. Someone's just gonna clip this and make it into a meme later. This would essentially give birth to the tether concept, as Sonic and Tails could be seen here, joined by an elastic energy band. Sega was still searching for a flagship title for the new 32X. As the project grew in size, development moved from the Genesis to its add-on companion. For those that are asking why not just wait for the release of the upcoming Sega Saturn that was just around the corner, well, your guess is as good as mine, but the only rationale we can presumably go off of is that it wasn't going to be ready for the Saturn's launch, and the 32X was desperate for some much needed star power. As I previously mentioned, by 94, Knuckles felt like the star of the show, and more so with the time running thin for release, Sonic and Tails would be removed from the project as Knuckles the Echidna would now take the spotlight. But would this solo adventure prove too much for our new favorite? After the battle for Angel Island, peace returns to the floating island. However, due to the island's fall into the sea from tampering of the Master Emerald, the balance of power slowly causes an effect on the surrounding body of water, primarily primarily the South Sea, which now endures tectonic movement deep under the sea floor, causing a mysterious landmass to rise from beneath like the lost city of Atlantis. With constant feed from the Master Emerald, the island begins to steadily thrive, turning into a lush tropical domain. Getting word of this phenomenon, Eggman begins to research this new utopia, discovering an inscribed ancient golden artifact detailing the origins of an ancient civilization home to the land. Eggman discovers a giant ring similar to the ones of Angel Island that have the potential of becoming an access point for the Master Emerald. The ring's power radiates with Chaos Emerald energy, materializing into 6 Chaos Rings. Intrigued by these findings, Eggman claims a stake to the land, rebuilding it to his liking. The new vision, his very own resort club coined Neutrogic High. Eggman crystallizes the ring's chaos energy into his very own bootleg set dubbed the Dark Rings, developing a way to bind rings together to establish a space-time connection between them. Knuckles, catching wind of Eggman's plans, rushes to this newly discovered island, only to find the inhabitants have slowly become roboticized at the hands of Eggman. Quickly searching out any and all whom currently are now in captivity, Knuckles stumbles upon Eggman, whom is currently exercising his practice on another victim. Knuckles quickly runs Eggman off and disarms his device. It is here he is introduced to Espio the Chameleon. As the two briefly catch up, they form a pact to find other survivors on a journey throughout Neutrogic High, stomping badniks, searching out Chaos Rings, and forming their own freedom fighters known as the Chaotix. Who exactly are they? Well, let's dive deeper because a few of them you may already be familiar with. Fans of the early Sega Sonic the Hedgehog arcade game will fondly remember this guy, Mighty the Armadillo, a sort of drifter in the sense, popping up on occasion when his services are needed. He gets his thrills in life embarking on various travels. Where Sonic has that in-your-face attitude, Mighty is calm and collected, ultimately stumbled upon the island by chance. Vector the Crocodile was one of Sonic's OG bandmates during those wild 80s tours. Vector loves to jam out, but also values spirituality, traveling to this island due to the many rumors of the island's miracles. Charmy B carries over from his own adventures throughout the Sonic manga series, a loudmouth at best and self-proclaimed fastest insect in the world, journeying to this new island in search of foretold wildlife. Saving the best for last, newcomer to this series for this outing is none other than Espio the Chameleon. Interested in the island's prophecies, he seeks out knowledge on the legendary civilization along with their connection to the floating island. Due to an early prototype discovery, it's also theorized at one point Espio potentially was the star of this story, with Knuckles added in to market its release. Looking back now, I sorta stand by this. Knuckles Chaotix was initially a working project titled Knuckles Ringstar, not to be confused with our boy Ristar, but the emphasis on anything ring related is absolutely on brand for this game. Knuckles Chaotix takes a large step off the beaten path, take all the applied conventional rules and throw them out the window. Here at the world entrance, we're greeted to our 5-star attractions, each composed of 5 acts each. Unlike the traditional storytelling in Sonic, there's no established order for travel, with stages entered at random by the spin of the roulette. Everything seemed to happen by the luck of the draw, just like those crooked carny games at the local fairgrounds. Hell, even choosing a partner comes down to chance, closing your eyes and leaving things up to fate. The almighty claw. Luckily, I grew up on those sweet Kirby Adventure minigames, so I think I got this. Our main gimmick this time around is the binding of our heroes through the power of rings. Spiritual friendship bracelets worn by one another at all times, bound by blood. Quite literally. Each character balances the other out as the magic of elasticity allows for some interesting new tricks defying the laws of physics. One teammate can hold while the other speeds forward, stretching the friendship bracelets to gain momentum. This momentum can generate upwards mobility to access new areas for exploration. You can hurl your accountability buddy forward and collect them back for a reunion. Keep in mind, as with classic Sonic 101, if you take damage without packing any rings, you lose your partner. If you manage to run into the same dilemma while going at it solo, you are sent packing back to the world entrance. Keep in mind, each of our heroes come equipped with their own unique set of abilities. This is where I believe Knuckles Chaotix shines the brightest. Knuckles comes equipped with his trusty glide and wall climbing feature, a standard for him at this point. Mighty is a speed fiend and essentially our sub-in for Sonic, who can additionally wall jump, a well-needed advantage for these level layouts. Espio has the skills to walk upright on walls and ceiling tops, crushing badniks as he steamrolls over them. Vector can pull off a sweet mid-air dash, while Charmy is the game's version of an action replay device, breaking the game to all hell by air dashing in style. If that wasn't enough variety, we also have our 2 comedic relief acts in the form of Bomb, who's tiny but packs a punch on impact, and Heavy, who is essentially a shield of sorts to carry into battle. There's a lot to unpack here. Where the initial idea of playing through this experience tethered together can feel like a chore, the beauty of doing so is through exploration, finding that perfect setup. Although this may be done by chance, it's a risk that pays off if you can do so. Knuckles Chaotix presents us with some quirky new monitor power-ups for Knuckles' breakout adventure. For starters, the Combine Ring allows us to now hold onto our coins in the event we get impaled by badniks, making it easier to hold onto your partner when needed the most. There's also a Grow Monitor that is hella fun to see in action, making it easier to run and climb the stage while becoming a massive target for badniks. Compare that to the Shrink Monitor and the exact opposite occurs, slowing down our attributes. Both of these are fun to just get a good chuckle out of, and I love them for what they are. There's also the Swap Monitor that lets you switch places with your partner for a brief moment in time. Bonus stages on our Mystery Island are accessed quite similarly to their Sonic 3 counterparts, jumping through giant rings scattered about. As you journey within, you emerge free-falling from above down atop various chains of rings, power-ups, and a blockade of hazards. You can rack up some hefty bonuses before your ring counter expires, including a slowdown at the roulette or a free pickup from the Combine Catcher. Special stages are one of the standout highlights, utilizing the 32X's processing power, allowing for some excellent sprite scaling and fully rendered 3D effects. Here they are accessed similarly to Sonic 1 by completing the act with 50 rings and jumping through the giant rings. However, this is a fresh take on the Blue Spheres challenge that gives off those VR racing vibes, maintaining your ring count as you navigate the race course, dodging spike balls, bumpers, and pits in an effort to recover the 6 Chaos Rings. Don't go into this with the expectations of getting a sweet new power-up form. Collecting these is tough love, and by doing so, you merely unlock the good ending. Our story opens at the Isolated Island, a small area that is designed to get your wings underneath you per se. It's an area you should take advantage of to get accustomed to the tethering physics, getting a good feel for things while also practicing your special maneuvers. The world entrance is where all the festivities happen. What's unique to this level select is the time changes that occur throughout, changing the visuals for the world entrance and the many attractions. Gameplay can be altered depending on the time zone, and specific events can play out slightly different. Botanic Base is a massive greenhouse of horrors, filled with a colorful bouquet of mechanical plantation of the badnik variety. This stage is essentially a mirage of plant life that cleverly tricks the untrained eye. There's a variety of moving parts here, with various elevators and sectors that lead to secret areas. In time, the zone itself gets completely overgrown with nature, making the layout feel immersive throughout. Routes of travel can vary depending on the time of day, and nature starts to blend together, playing tricks on your psyche the deeper you go. Our next attraction is known to push your acceleration button. Speed Slider is the star attraction of this chaotic Neverland, a coaster engineered by the finest Eggman tech that stretches across many amenities of this theme park. The stage is designed for speed, so utilizing characters like Muddy and Espio are ideal for many of these scenarios. The zone is layered with bells, springs, and balloons that really puts the attraction into perspective. The Eggman Carousel is a personal favorite, finding our evil genius launching rockets while scheming away inside the ride. Horses have now been replaced with spike beds, and the rotating floor below makes it difficult to move about, targeting in on the dark ring as it rotates about. Every good amusement park needs prizes, and Amazing Arena gives us just that. A large factory filled with floating alien technology that carries us to new destinations. What's unique to this attraction is the emphasis on bringing color back into perspective as you tether your way about. This act opens to complete darkness, relying on our stage cues to search out the desired light switches. Being mindful that in the event you don't locate these power switches, you will have to re-enter the act again, and with a game designed with 5 acts per attraction, this will get tedious real quick. Techno Tower is exactly as it sounds, a tower of power that must be scaled strategically with the use of varying springs and floating set pieces that will guide you higher in order to reach the top. There's also a hovering drill dozer that busts through the walls, showing new ways to venture. Using a team of Knuckles or Vector can be pretty helpful here, especially when scaling the walls for progression. Every good hero deserves a vacation at some point or another, and you can book your getaway now through Marina Madness, a fleet of cruise ships you can partake on that shockingly has no water-themed areas to deal with. Instead, you hit switches on board these cruise tankers that can ferry you across the sea. Soon after the Chaotix recover the Chaos Rings, they encounter Metal Sonic, who now stands center stage at the world entrance. He quickly locks into the database of the machinery for a face-off against the squad. Our duo now plays a game of murder mystery with their fate left in the hands of Metal Sonic. Metal randomly shuffles through his deck of tricks. Depending on the corresponding number landed on, he will reach into his bag and deliver a deadly attack. Platforms rise and escort you into a barrage of traps, while others poke out from the floorboards, moving outwards towards the spike beds. Tentacles will extend from opposing sides of the mad machinery, and rockets rise from beneath, dropping down onto our team. Be mindful that Metal also attacks with metallic blades popping up from the ground below, so tread carefully. If you manage to land on the X, it destroys one of the numbered panels in his corresponding attack. After laying waste to this wicked machinery, Metal flees just long enough for Eggman to use a dark ring to transform his creation into the madness that is Metal Sonic Kai. This is the fight of all fights. Sure, you race this guy in Sonic CD, but here he has a whole ass endgame form that I wouldn't have any other way. Metal Sonic Kai will come forth, slashing away with his mechanical talons. This boss fight is pretty intense, as Kai can take a great deal of damage only to eventually fly to the background for another barrage of attacks. This fight can be an endurance round, as he only becomes more relentless in time, storing up energy in his compression chamber deep inside his torso, releasing a plasma pulse wave across the arena. Aiming for the bulb that charges his attack is key to victory, taking the appropriate measures to attack during his downtime. Taking the proper steps puts Metal down for good, sealing the deal for the story. Our team's fate is now left in the hands of the Chaos Rings. Failing to recover them will lead to destruction across the island, as Eggman manages to bring Metal Sonic Kai back online, who literally torched the island in its entirety. I'm not gonna lie, this is a pretty dark ending even for a Sonic game. Typically just getting old Eggman dancing around with the Chaos Emeralds, here he straight up shows you that you effed up. However, recovering our Chaos Rings brings peace back to the land, as our new Chaotix teams celebrates in style, with Sonic and Tails dropping in to join in on the festivities. Knuckles Chaotix is experimental at best, while the fundamental ideas behind it bear substantial weight. Unfortunately, those ideas aren't executed to their full potential. There's an overwhelming variety in character playstyles by means of pairing them, yet with that said, the tethering physics can almost make it feel off-putting. I think in many ways, it deviates too far away from the conventional format Sonic fans are used to. The ring band can rack one's brain constantly when attempting to merely scale a slope or loop. I think for a series designed around speed and platforming, restricting a player's movement in any way, shape, or form is going to feel like a hindrance. However, Knuckles Chaotix is by no means unplayable or broken to any degree. I think this is a pre-notion by many that like to sideline speculate, not getting their hands dirty by picking up the controller. It's rough around the edges in execution, sure, but there's value in gameplay here. There's still a lot to offer, and I think every character brings something delightful to the table. Each character's pairing combines their attributes, which can become a plus or minus depending on your setup, and experimentation is half the challenge. Discovering what works best for you, and the payoff comes by means of that discovery. The stages are absolutely stunning visually, and the color palette is rich and vibrant throughout. The musical score is upbeat with fun melodies that almost electrifies the island setting. To just cast off Knuckles Chaotix because of these shortcomings is a huge disservice to what is under the hood here. Although we didn't receive a tether to this degree again moving forward, creatively it was a solid attempt, and I will never fault the team for thinking outside the box. I still very much enjoy playing through Knuckles Chaotix from time to time, and although it's by no means on the level of a Sonic 2 or Sonic 3, it's strikingly an interesting concept that is fun to revisit. There's many thoughts I still have on Knuckles Chaotix, as well as the classic series as a whole. I would definitely revisit them in another form, whether that be through the story narrative or a deep dive in development. However, for now, the classic series rests. I have many more modern 2D and 3D releases to look at, but for now, the focus must shift to our next franchise, journeying into parts unknown. For everyone that has given me input, critiquing me in some shape or form, thank you. A big part of doing these reviews is to hear from you all, and I can only get better with brutal honesty, so don't ever think y'all gotta hold back on me. I'm just thankful to have your attention, enjoying any and all perspectives on the Sonic franchise. When we return, we will be diving into the legacy of the Belmont clan, a series that needs no introduction, but enough talk. Have at you all, and with all, a good night. Thanks for joining me.